Let's compare the Redmi 15 versus Samsung Galaxy A17 and see which one should you get. So on the Redmi 15 I have 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage, while on the Samsung A17 I have 4GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. So for this Redmi 15, few days ago I paid exactly a bit under €100 or $100 essentially, while the A17 can be currently had for maybe like €150. So actually quite significant price difference between these phones. By the way, also if you want to get the Redmi 15 for a similar price, simply check out the special discount links I'll leave in the description. So I got mine from AliExpress and I luckily paid actually only right around €100 for this. So again, make sure to check out those extra coupons I'll leave in the description, so you can combine those with this price and again bring it to maybe like right around $100 essentially. For this price, I think this phone is totally unbeatable. Also, here is a quick comparison of all the rated specs. So you see on the Redmi we get significantly better battery life and also even better waterproofing and also even slightly better durability than on the Samsung. So you see, when it comes to battery life, this completely destroys the Samsung. When it comes to design and build quality, both phones actually look incredibly nice indeed. So over here I have the Titan Grey on the Xiaomi and this black version on the Samsung. So yeah, when it comes to design, maybe some people even would prefer the Redmi phone. So if you look at the thickness and build quality, they feel pretty much the same. Maybe I would give slight edge to the Samsung when it comes to overall feel and the build quality. So you see, we have Type-C on both and also one single speaker on both as well. So, and also the SIM card location is pretty much in the same place. So yeah, when it comes to design and build quality, both these phones actually feel way more premium than they actually cost. Also, when you get the Redmi inside the box, we even have a free case as well included, which is absolutely awesome. And the case quality actually is very premium on this phone. So yep, even free case with this Xiaomi phone. Also, what's absolutely awesome, we even get the free screen protector already applied on this phone as well, so I hope you can see. So yep, so it's a basic probably plastic screen protector, but yeah, obviously, yeah, nice touch essentially. On the Samsung we do not get any case or screen protector inside the box. And when it comes to comfort and how both of these phones actually feel when you use them in daily tasks, I would give a clear win for the Samsung, as obviously it's more compact phone than the Xiaomi. Also the bezel size, if you look up close, so you see they're actually significantly smaller on the Samsung. So also for the top, so you see, yeah, smaller bezels definitely. And the Xiaomi, so I have actually quite large hands, and even for me it feels like a bit too wide essentially, so due to the extra thick bezels essentially. So it's not the most comfortable phone to hold, so it's a proper big boy essentially, whereas this one is actually still fairly slim phone. And yeah, when you are using it, holding it, the Samsung definitely wins in this case. When it comes to display, on the Xiaomi we get tiny bit larger display and also much better refresh rate. So you see we get 144 Hz refresh rate on the Xiaomi versus 90 Hz on the Samsung. So to get 144 Hz at this price, that's absolutely insane. Here on the Samsung we get slightly better protection basically against scratches and drops essentially. Resolution is about the same, but when it comes to the actual display quality in real life, I would give a clear win for the Samsung. So the display definitely is actually significantly better on the Samsung. I'm not sure how well you can see in the video, but basically the colors are much more punchier basically on the Samsung. So again, in real life I think the difference is even larger than you can see in the video essentially. So when it comes to smoothness, you can't really tell that one is 90 Hz and one is 144 Hz. I think the display actually even feels a tiny bit smoother on the Samsung, and generally out of all budget phones, I think Samsung's really completely destroy everything else when it comes to the display quality. So yeah, this has got really top class display. Also, for example, if I compare the display of this A17 versus my Samsung S25, which is literally maybe like 5 or 6 times more expensive phone than this one, then the display quality is actually very comparable. So again, the display on the A17 out of any budget phone is the best you can get. So again, this is only IPS display, while this is Super AMOLED. When it comes to sound quality, I would give maybe a tiny edge to the Samsung. It definitely feels more fuller, whereas this tiny bit more muffled. But again, for the price, both have very decent speakers essentially. When it comes to performance, so I have done a test over here. So you see this version of the Samsung definitely is, at least on paper, actually significantly faster, especially in the single score. By the way, this over here is a 5G model, so if you look at the regular A17, the 4G model, then actually the score won't be as good. So the CPU on the 5G is actually more powerful than on the 4G. And also it's the same situation on the Redmi 15. So I have the 4G version here. If you check the Redmi 15 5G version, then actually the single score is almost double, so and almost comparable to the Samsung A17. So yep, basically if you want even significantly more powerful phone, so again simply consider the 5G versions of both these phones. However, when it comes to real world performance, even though on paper Xiaomi appears maybe tiny bit worse than the Samsung, that's actually not the case. So I think the main flaw of the A17 is that it only comes with 4 GB of RAM in the base variant. In 2025, I think that's absolutely ridiculous to only include 4 GB. So when you are basically maybe switching between some apps, changing some settings, doing something on the phone, maybe opening some websites, watching some videos, definitely the Redmi actually feels more fluid phone essentially. This sometimes even have a bit of tiny stutter essentially. So again, when it comes to overall performance and how basically these two exact phones feel, then this actually feels like a faster phone, even though in the benchmarks it appears slower. However, if you were to get the more powerful 8 GB version of the Samsung, then probably there won't be any difference between these phones when it comes to performance. But again, obviously, if you are getting the 8 GB version of the Samsung, it's considerably more expensive, essentially. And next, simply let's do some side-by-side test and see how fast also it opens some apps. So you see, currently I have all my background apps closed. So you see definitely tiny bit faster on the Samsung. It obviously has got, the more powerful CPU in the single score at least. But let's see, now actually the Xiaomi is faster when you are actually opening some basic stuff here. Again, Samsung. But I suspect as we are going to fill up the RAM, actually the Xiaomi will take the lead. So you see actually, when it comes to game loading times, the Xiaomi actually was even a bit faster. So again, I'm not closing any of these apps, I'm simply leaving them in the background. Okay, still on the Samsung. Again on the Samsung, actually a tiny bit better. So let's repeat this. Yeah. So yeah, as you see, actually in some apps the Samsung is faster, in some actually even the Xiaomi is faster. But again, so in real everyday usage, I find the Redmi 15 actually is a bit smoother essentially. There is tiny bit of lag sometimes basically, especially as you fill up basically the storage of this phone. But still for basic stuff, really, if you are just like basic average user, both phones I suspect will be absolutely great for you. When it comes to the cameras, even though both phones get 50 megapixel main camera, in real life it's not even a competition really. The Samsung completely wipes floor with the Xiaomi phone and it's not really even close. Also on the Xiaomi, so you see it might appear we have 3 different cameras over here, but again, so only this is a real camera, so I have no idea what are these. Maybe some sensors. So again, we only have one camera over here versus all these are real cameras essentially. Also, also, one huge negative as well for the Xiaomi phone, it doesn't have any stabilization whatsoever. So when you are actually filming something, everything is extremely shaky essentially. Versus the Samsung actually has got optical image stabilization, and generally, it's actually very good stabilization overall and comparable to maybe like mid-range phones. And also, if you compare the Samsung camera versus any other budget phone camera, then out of all phones, I think that Samsung easily has the best camera out of any phone, essentially, I would say. Also on the Samsung for video recording, so in the official app we actually can't record in 4K, but if you get this 5G version I have over here, for example, if you record the videos through maybe like third-party software such as Open Camera, you can actually manually change the resolution to 4K. So the CPU and camera actually is capable recording 4K videos, basically, yeah. On the Samsung, on this one we can only record full HD videos. Also, when it comes to performance in lower light conditions, again the Xiaomi completely falls apart, and also the color accuracy also isn't very good on this phone, essentially. And again, the stabilization, again, there is no stabilization whatsoever basically on this camera. And next, let's compare the video quality on both the phones. So let's check our focus. And next, let's compare the video quality on both the phones. So let's check our focus. So previously I was filming with my Google Pixel phone, and that's what I used to make maybe like 95% of videos on my channel. So I can compare how these super budget phones compare to a literally like 7 times more expensive flagship phone, essentially. So previously I was filming with my Google Pixel phone, and that's what I used to make maybe like 95% of videos on my channel. So I can compare how these super budget phones compare to a literally like 7 times more expensive flagship phone, essentially. Let's check for these colors. I think the color exposure definitely on the Samsung is better. Let's check for these colors. I think the color exposure definitely on the Samsung is better. And now I'm back recording on my Pixel again. So again, yeah, when it comes to camera quality, really there isn't even competition. The Samsung completely destroys the Xiaomi. Also, the audio recording quality also is much better on the Samsung, as you could hear. Also, there is self noise as well, basically on the Xiaomi phone. So if you listen carefully, there's like tiny shh basically for the microphone as well on this phone. So definitely the camera is very low end, essentially. But really, if you maybe have had maybe some other Xiaomi phone in the past that is even like worse than this one, and if you are satisfied with that camera, so again, if you are like a very basic user, so if you do not use your camera much, maybe still you can actually get away with it. But again, so if these phones do not cost like any different, and again, you actually want the best camera, really there isn't even like competition. So simply get the Samsung. It has got significantly better camera in pretty much every way. However, when it comes to battery life, this is where the Xiaomi actually completely destroys the Samsung phone. By the way, previously, if someone was asking me which phone to get if you want the best battery life in a budget phone, I usually suggested actually one of these Samsung budget phones that generally have actually absolutely excellent battery lives. And overall, I'm also very satisfied with the battery life on this A17. In fact, it's actually much better than, for example, on the Samsung flagship phones, so for example on the S25 or even the A56. So again, this has got significantly better battery life than any of those. Or again, if you compare the Pixel phones or any other phones, really, these generally have absolutely excellent batteries. But really, so if we compare to this Redmi 15, really there isn't even competition. Really, this again completely destroys Samsung. So we get absolutely massive 7000 mAh battery in this phone, while we get 5000 in the Samsung, essentially. So obviously, yeah, the body is larger. When it comes to thickness, so you see both phones are pretty comparable actually. And next, let's do a quick battery drain test. So see, currently I have 89% and also 89% on both devices. I have set my brightness on the same level. I'm simply going open up a video and let it play while also starting a timer, and I'm going to come back after some time and see what happens. It has been around 75 minutes. On the Samsung we have 74%, while on the Xiaomi 82%. So essentially the Redmi 15 consumed literally 2 times less battery life to run YouTube for a bit over 1 hour. That's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, for web browsing, literally 2 times better battery life on this Xiaomi phone. Absolutely insane. And next I'm going to let this game run in background. So you see currently I have 82% on the Xiaomi and 73% on the Samsung phone. Again, let's set it aside and run it for a while. Okay, so we are at 30 minutes. Let's check basically the battery level. 67 here and 78 on the Xiaomi. So when it comes to gaming, again, Xiaomi actually completely destroyed the Samsung, so roughly 50% better when it comes to the battery life for gaming. And yeah, when it comes to battery life of this phone, I think it's absolute beast really. So literally probably one of the best phones in the world at the moment. So yeah, overall when it comes to the battery life, I think the Redmi 15 definitely is absolutely unbeatable. When it comes to charging speeds, I feel they're pretty much identical, so not much difference there actually. And overall, which phone should you get, this Redmi 15 or the new Samsung Galaxy A17? So I guess it really depends on what kind of price you can get these for, and also what are your priorities essentially. So if you want the best possible camera basically in a budget phone, so again there isn't even a question really, so simply get the Samsung A17 essentially. Also obviously you're getting a nicer display as well on this one, but apart from that really, so in other areas really, so this even beats the Samsung, I would say, especially the battery life. Also it's tiny bit more snappier, faster essentially, also bigger screen for media consumption if you prefer that. So again, if you can get this for like very cheap money, so again just like I did, so again, I literally paid only like 100 euros for this phone, which is absolutely insane. By the way, again, if you also want to get it for a similar price, simply check out the special discount links I'll leave in the description. So I got mine from AliExpress, and again, so they currently even have some special offer on this phone. So again, if you combine this price with also some coupons I'll leave in the description, you can again get it literally for a bit under like 100 euros or dollars. For this price, it's totally unbeatable. And again, so yeah, the internal spec for this price, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculously good. So again, so at the moment, 100 for this one, around maybe like 150 or 160 for this one essentially. But again, so if you are purchasing them somewhere else and if the price difference isn't as huge between these phones, really I would actually pick the Samsung essentially. So again, if you simply go in some random shop, maybe the price will be actually quite similar on these phones, I suspect, because yeah, the Samsung actually has got significantly better camera. Also the display actually is nicer as well, I would say. Maybe in the video you can't tell much of difference, and again with time also you'll probably get used to the display and it doesn't really have much problem. So again, it's only if you compare them side by side you can tell that the Samsung has got a nicer display, essentially better colors, better blacks essentially, better contrast, and also even tiny bit better brightness as well essentially. So again, the main two advantage of the Samsung I think is better display and significantly better cameras. So again, cameras like literally maybe like 3 times better on the Samsung, also stabilization, much better resolution, details, colors, everything completely destroys the Xiaomi. Also the front facing camera also obviously is much better on the Samsung as well. But yeah, Redmi obviously has got significantly larger battery life is absolutely insane. So if you do not care much about the cameras, if you do not use them really, so if you can get it for a similar price like I did, really, so there isn't even like a question, simply get the Xiaomi. I think it's absolutely awesome phone. Also yeah, the build quality is actually very decent. Yeah, battery life absolutely insane on this thing. And also yeah, the display is also actually fairly decent on a cheap budget phone. And also again, I feel it's actually even tiny bit more powerful and more snappier than the Samsung essentially. On the Samsung again, if you want to get like better performance, you would probably have to go for the 8GB version. I think then the Samsung also would be actually fairly snappy. And yeah, overall I think both these phones are easily the best budget phones you can currently get. Anyway, good luck.